10 years ago, they lowered a coffin into the cold Idaho earth. Inside, they believed, lay the body of Elara Vance. Her sister, Lena, wept as the town whispered condolences and moved on. But Lena never stopped waiting, never stopped believing. Then, on the day of Lena's wedding, a figure walked through the orchard mist. A woman wearing Elara's face. But the woman they buried wasn't Elara, and the truth she carried would shatter everything Lena thought she knew about identity, silence, and the terrifying cost of a lie. Before we begin, tell me where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I read every single one. Now take a breath because this story will stay with you, long after it ends. The late summer sun over Havenwood, Idaho, painted the sky in soft golds and weary grays. A warm breeze sighed through the Moore family orchard, carrying the scent of wildflowers and the distant tinkle of wind chimes. Beneath a white tent, laughter bubbled as guests sipped champagne, admiring the bride. Lena Moore stood near the farmhouse, radiant in a cream lace gown, her dark hair pinned with white roses. She glowed, yet a tremor touched her smile when no one watched. This beautiful day carried a shadow, the absence of her older sister, Elara, who had died in a car crash a decade ago. The accident happened on a dark, rural stretch of road. The fire consumed everything, they said. Identification came from dental records and partial DNA. Lena, only 19 then, felt grief pressed down like an anchor. Now, trying to step into joy felt like a betrayal. How do you celebrate when one chair is forever empty? As the pianist began Elara's favorite childhood melody, a rustle stirred the orchard path. Not wind, whispers. Confusion rippled through the guests. A woman walked towards the wedding arch. Not a guest. Not part of the wedding party. Her shoes were worn, her dress plain and sun-faded. But her face. It was Elara's face. No, it was Elara. Gasps erupted. A woman fainted. Lena dropped her bouquet, frozen in disbelief. The woman stopped, her eyes holding a depth of pain that silenced the crowd. "I'm sorry I missed the last 10 years, she said, her voice cracking. The world stopped. A champagne glass shattered. Lena's father, Thomas Moore, pushed forward, demanding answers. Lena's fiancé, David, moved protectively beside her. But the woman, Elara, didn't flinch. "I'm not here to ruin anything," she pleaded. "I just didn't know where else to go." "Elara Vance is dead," Thomas stated coldly. "I buried her myself." "No." The woman shook her head, reaching into her pocket. "Cess." He pulled out a small rusted charm on a chain, a tiny ballerina mid-twirl. Lena recognized it instantly. The necklace she'd given Elara the night before the accident. No one else knew she had it. The wedding dissolved. Inside, the old family photo wall held frozen memories. Birthdays, holidays, Elara's graduation. One photo showed the sisters, young, hair tangled by wind, Elara gripping Lena's hand tightly. That bond felt shattered by 10 years of absence. Thomas called the sheriff, demanding DNA tests. The woman calling herself Elara began to speak. She woke up 2 years after the crash in a clinic in Montana, near Kalispell. Drugged, disoriented, no memory, no ID. They told her she was Mara, a patient with induced amnesia. She believed them for months. Then a nurse left an old yearbook near her bed. Elara saw her own face, her real name. Memories flooded back. She escaped, walked for days, found work, and eventually got a bus ticket to Havenwood. "I had to try," she whispered. Thomas remained skeptical. "Where's the scar on your knee?" he demanded. Elara slowly rolled up her jeans. A jagged white line marked the spot, identical to the one from a childhood bike accident. Lena burst into tears, but darker questions surfaced. Why had dental records identified Elara? Who was buried? Thomas demanded the old coroner's report. That night, as Elara slept in her old room, Lena crept in. Elara was staring at a photo of their mother, who had died of cancer years before. "I missed her funeral," Elara whispered. "I didn't even know she was gone." Lena sat beside her. "Who kept you from us, El?" Elara's eyes darkened. "I don't know his name, but I remember his eyes, always watching. And every time I asked about my past, he'd say, 'You died. That's all you need to know.'" Outside, a motion sensor light flicked on, illuminating the orchard. A shape moved between the trees. Lena rushed to the window but saw only shadows. "Did you see him?" Elara asked, voice low. "See who?" "The man who told me I was dead. He wore a green jacket." Lena felt ice crawl up her spine. "Dad used to have a green sheriff's jacket." Elara paled. Then maybe it wasn't a stranger. Elara Vance had been a nurse, reliable, quiet, dreaming of becoming a trauma specialist. Thomas Moore, a former sheriff, was stern, a man who believed the world didn't allow falling apart. After Elara's death, he withdrew into silence. Weeks before the crash, Elara had noticed strange things: an unfamiliar car, silent phone calls, her mailbox left open. She told her family. They dismissed it as stress. In the Montana clinic, they called her Mara. They gave her pills, a journal, told her to start fresh. Then came the yearbook. Everything cracked. Back in Havenwood, Lena found Elara's old high school backpack untouched. Inside, a photo strip from the county fair showed them laughing, cotton candy in hand. On the back, Elara had written, "Even when I'm not around, always love you, always." Memories returned to Elara in vivid flashes. The scar, a first kiss, an argument with Thomas about refusing a desk job. And a frag meant someone in a green jacket beside a hospital bed saying, "You don't exist anymore, Elara." Thomas sat alone, staring at the coroner's report. Dental match confirmed. Car was hers, ID was hers. But one detail stood out. Necklace, none found. Yet Elara had the ballerina charm. Late that night, Lena asked Elara about the accident. "I remember pulling out of the hospital parking lot," Elara said. "Bright headlights coming fast. Someone opening my door. I think I was injected with something." The next morning, a photo slipped under the front door. It showed Elara sitting on a hospital bed, dated 4 years after her funeral. On the back, typed, "You were never supposed to come back." Thomas discovered his office had been broken into. His laptop moved, files shuffled, his service pistol missing. Rachel began having nightmares, endless hallways of mirrors where her reflection stared, unmoving. Then, Lena received an anonymous email. "You're in danger." Attached was a medical file labeled Elara Vance, stamped "Deceased," detailing sedation and memory suppression. The signature at the bottom chilled her. Dr. Arthur Finch, the same coroner who signed Elara's death certificate. Finch had retired years ago. Thomas admitted Elara's case was the only one he never felt comfortable closing. That night, Lena and Elara sat on the porch. "I remember Finch," Elara whispered. "He came to the clinic once. He looked scared. He whispered to someone, 'We buried the wrong girl.'" Days later, a burned car was found at the edge of the property. Inside, under the driver's seat, a syringe. It was linked to a transport service used by care facilities near Kalispell. "They know she's here," Lena whispered. Elara walked to the backyard shed. Beneath a loose floorboard, she found a tin box filled with photos, of her in the clinic, some restrained. In one photo, taken through a window, a figure in a green sheriff's jacket watched her. Lena confronted Thomas. "How long have you known she was alive?" Thomas denied it. Lena slammed the photo down. "Explain this." Thomas collapsed into a chair. "I was trying to protect you, from the people I used to work for." 10 years ago, a deputy had shown him a case he wasn't supposed to see. A terrified young woman found wandering, saying, "I'm not who they say I am." She was taken to a private facility. Thomas tried to investigate but was shut down. Then, 2 weeks later, Elara vanished. "I was warned," Thomas said. "I didn't listen." And then she was gone. Elara stepped into the room, her voice ice. "You let them bury someone else in my name." Thomas couldn't meet her eyes. "I thought if I signed the report, they'd stop watching us." Lena received a package, a USB drive. It contained clinic footage. The timestamp showed Elara walking down a corridor, escorted by nurses. But another patient, identical to Elara, appeared, staring blankly. "That's not me," Elara said. "It's a decoy." Elara insisted on returning to Kalispell. Thomas refused. "You buried me once," Elara snapped. "You don't get to lock me away again, before." Leaving, Lena found a torn Bible page in the mailbox, Psalm 88, scrawled in the margin, "Return, and you'll wish you stayed dead." Driving to Montana, Elara spoke of a nurse, Clara, who helped her. "She said there were others," Elara revealed. "Girls like us, different names, same story. They made her disappear too." At the clinic site, they found only a leveled field. At its center stood a single mailbox. Inside, a photo. Elara and Clara smiling, with Dr. Finch behind them. On the back, Kalispell wasn't the beginning. Start at the lake. They drove to Flathead Lake. An old man directed them to the ruins of Whisper Lake House, a private medical center destroyed by fire years ago. Hiking through overgrown woods, they found the skeletal remains. Elara stopped breathing. "This is it," she whispered. Behind the charred nurse's station, beneath a loose floorboard, she found a rusted tin box. Inside, a cassette tape labeled Clara Mendez RN, a phone number, and a photo of a girl who looked exactly like Elara. In their motel room, they played the tape. Clara's voice filled the silence. "If you're hearing this, Rachel, Elara, they've taken me or I've run. You were brought here under a fake name. They called you Jane Doe, needed reprogramming. But I saw your file. I saw the real name, and I saw the other one. There's another girl, she looks just like you. They called her Lyra. I think they're testing something, swapping lives, controlling memories. They made you disappear because you knew something. Don't trust anyone, especially not family. Go to where it started. Go home. Before Boise, ask about Project Mirror. I left something in Locker 43 at the old Greyhound station." They drove back to Havenwood overnight. At the abandoned bus station, Locker 43 held a manila envelope labeled Project Mirror Draft 2, Confidential. Inside, a flash drive and a small red baby blanket. Elara gasped. "I remember this from when I was a baby." Opening the Project Mirror file at home revealed government documents, brain scan diagrams, twin testing, identity fragmentation studies, and 2 photos of identical baby girls, one labeled Subject A, Elara Vance, the other, Subject B, Lyra. Thomas walked in, saw the files, and turned pale. "Where did you get these?" Elara demanded. He confessed. "Project Mirror, a classified program. Twins monitored from birth, one raised with self-awareness, the other controlled, watched, used." Elara was shaking. "I was Subject A." Thomas nodded. "Your mother knew. She begged me to pull you out. But the state had rights. They let us keep one. The other vanished." Lena screamed, "What do you mean the state had rights?" Thomas's voice was hoarse. "They let us keep you. Lyra vanished." Silence hung heavy. "So who died in that car?" Elara whispered. Thomas closed his eyes. "Lyra. The girl buried 10 years ago wasn't Elara. It was her twin sister, erased before she could live. Elara stared out the window. If she was raised as me, who am I now? Lena took her hand. You're my sister. No matter what. That night, Elara listened to Clara's tape again. Near the end, almost inaudible, was a whisper. Elorn. Elorn was a ghost town in Montana. Elara packed a bag. I have to go, she told Lena. If this is about who I really am, I need to face it myself. Lena handed her the ballerina necklace. For luck. Elorn was a graveyard of rotting wood in the mountains. Fog clung to the trees. Only one structure stood, a decaying church. A handprint, smudged in ash, marked the door. Elara pushed it open. Inside, charred pews and a trap door at the altar, bearing the Project Mirror symbol. She descended into darkness. A long corridor stretched before her, lit by a flickering light. She passed numbered rooms until she found room 7. Inside, a preserved medical chamber and a glowing TV screen. It played footage of 2 3-year-old girls, identical, playing with blocks. One labelled Elara, the other Lyra. Timestamp 1993. Elara froze. She had a sister, a real one. A voice came from a speaker. If you're seeing this, Elara, you made it further than anyone thought. Project Mirror was terminated because of you, because you remembered. But before we erased everything, you saw her file. Lyra was never meant to live past 7. She was an experiment in obedience. But you were the mistake. The control subject who asked too many questions. We tried to switch you. Lyra would live your life, you'd vanish into data. But Lyra broke. She refused to be you, so we burned the project. But fire doesn't destroy ghosts. Elara ran. She found room 12, filled with files. One cabinet stood open. Inside, a folder. Elara Vance, final report. Page 3 held a termination order, signed by Dr. Arthur Finch, approved by T. Moore. Her father hadn't just known, he had signed her death warrant. Stumbling into the corridor, she heard footsteps. A figure stood at the end, tall, in a green sheriff's jacket. Dr. Finch emerged from the shadows. You weren't supposed to come back, he said calmly. Elara backed away. You killed my sister. Finch shook his head. No, your father did. Elara fled up the stairs, out of the church, and didn't stop running until she reached her car. Back in Havenwood, Elara collapsed into Lena's arms. He signed it, she whispered. My death order. Dad. They confronted Thomas. He didn't deny it. I did what I thought would protect you, he said. Elara's voice was steel. You chose silence over truth. Elara left that night. She tracked Clara to a women's shelter in Oregon. They wept. Clara confirmed Project Mirror had over a dozen subjects. Only Elara and Lyra survived childhood. Elara was the control. Lyra, the programmable twin. But Lyra resisted. She loved Elara. When they tried to erase Elara, Lyra fought back. She stole the car, faked the accident, tried to save her sister, and died in the process. Lyra was the hero. Lara returned to Havenwood and gave everything to a journalist. The headline broke. She was buried 10 years ago, then walked into her sister's wedding. Dr. Finch was arrested. Thomas vanished. Elara finally got her name back. More importantly, Lyra did too. Elara built a memorial. The plaque read, For the sister who died trying to save the one the world forgot. You lived with courage. You died with truth. Beneath it, Elara Vance. She mattered. 1 year later, on the anniversary of Lyra's funeral, Elara visited the grave alone. She placed a yellow rose and read a letter aloud. Dear Lyra, I don't know if souls recognize each other after death.
But I know you saved me. You chose to die so I could live. I promise I'll live twice as hard. Once for me and once for you. When I look in the mirror, I'll smile. Not just because I see myself, but because I see you too. Months later, Thomas showed up at Elara's door, broken. I was raised to believe silence kept people safe, he said. But silence buried my daughter. He handed her a cassette. Elara and Lyra, age 3. Elara took it. I'll never forget what you did, she said. But I'll never forget you showed up anyway. That night she played the tape, 2 little voices singing, their mother clapping. Make a wish, girls. We wish to be the same forever, they giggled. Elara let the sound wash over her like rain. Elara became a trauma counselor, helping others find their voices. She wrote books. Her final memoir contained letters to Thomas, her mother, Clara, Lena, and Lyra. The last page read, I was buried 10 years ago, but you brought me back. I don't know where you are now, but if souls leave footprints, yours are beside mine every step, every day, forever. She died for me to remember who I was, so I could become who she never had the chance to be. The story of Elara and Lyra Vance isn't just about a disappearance or a shocking return. It's a chilling reminder that sometimes the deepest mysteries aren't about where people go, but about the secrets we bury to protect them and the devastating cost of silence. In Havenwood, 2 sisters were lost. One to a lie, one to a grave. But in the end, truth became their only monument. And truth, like the secrets it uncovers, rarely stays buried. To explore more stories where the past refuses to rest, keep watching the Witness Archives.